Hello, this is Feedback June, and I started talking and now I started recording. So even if in summertime, nobody can't attend a feedback session. That's not a problem. I completely understand that it's summer and everybody have lots to do, but you can still send in your work and I can make this live session even alone and just give you feedback about your work, because it is important if you are working, painting, to have a look from other and give you some insights and point out strong sides and weak sides. So no problem if you can't join, but please send in your work. Other thing before we start feedback session, I want to show is once or twice a month, I receive complaints about Patreon, this how to find tutorials, lessons. And first of all, I'm not in control how Patreon looks. I also wanted it maybe to be different, more easily finding it, but I try to do as much as I can. And I would like to share screen and show if somebody's listening and feeling also bad about the Patreon. I will show you what you can do to make your life easier on Patreon. First of all is content guide. This is the first post which everybody should read, and it's also mentioned in the welcome when somebody's joining. It is also as a welcome guide. This is not just ordinary post. There's a lot of information about beginner section, advanced, what type of tags I have. Then this is a very important part. My suggestions on where to start, especially not just about beginners. It's not just about it's also to more advanced. It's so you can know my style, you can know my tools, my recommendations. Even if you are advanced and experienced, this is the where you should start. You will get familiar with my style, with me and my painting approach more faster and easier. This is all created for the suggestion where to start. And then we have online school lessons where we have all first lesson, then feedback sessions about that particular lesson. So this is also an important. Then art materials, YouTube channel, and somewhere was also a Facebook group. Yeah, here's the Facebook group where we also post quite a lot in process. And other thing where you can find something is my page where we have classes. There's also links in that post, and here you can have a wide, much better look of all the tutorials, which are also divided. Beginner section, you have all tutorials, advanced section, and so on. Maybe some latest tutorials are not added, but I update it once in 3 months, so it's already quite full. So I think everyone can find something to work on. Okay. And we can start a feedback session if we close this question. Of course, you can always write to me. You can always ask questions. And I try to answer. My Patreons are my priority. I always try to answer as soon as possible. Maybe this month was quite chaotic because the challenge took a lot of time and energy, but I still respond in 1 day or max in 2 days. Okay, we can start feedback session. And I have this magnolia. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing screen again. So, okay. Now you can see what I am showing. And I have a reference here. So this magnolia was here. The main approach, my message was about light area, how to keep light area light and not to overwork it. I wasn't too much concentrating on color, but more on light area, how to achieve light, how to preserve light area from the very first brushstrokes. Here I have first Magnolia 2. First is the outline. If you are not transferring straight away from my outline to your paper, if you are freehand drawing, that's completely okay. It means that you only need a little bit more practice, a little bit more precision. And I also suggest to first sketch on plain paper. When you are for example, painting freehand, start on a plain paper. Do a lot of lines, do sketchy lines, and only then transfer to your original. And I can see that there are some few lines, because original watercolor paper isn't supposed to where you should be sketching and trying freehand drawing, because it is more suited for painting, rather because then it is hard to erase some lines. And if you are freehand drawing, that's completely fine, and you can practice if you want. I'm just uploading those line drawings for those who don't want to do freehand drawing, and you can just transfer. And okay, this part maybe is too dark. If we look at the reference, this bottom part of Magnolia Bud is the darkest, and if we look everything up, it's become light. If I take a look at this painting, I will see that this part is dark, yes, but this one also is super dark. It shouldn't be, and then it creates this awkward situation. Not quite sure where is up and where is down. All is harmonious because the light is shining on top, then it's slowly everything that's beneath is going into shadow, and Magnolia has this color more on the lower part of the flower head. And this part is also a little bit tricky. Here we can clearly see that the most darkest part, the darkest of the darkest, is this part, but here it's this, but it shouldn't be here. So a little bit more careful observation, more seeing those. That takes time, that takes practice. The more you will look, the more you will practice, the more you will start to notice these different tonal values, these different changes in tonal values, how this is the darkest, then it slowly become lighter. Also here we have the darkest part, and it's gradually with halftones becomes the lightest one in the upper part. And in a tutorial, this part was almost, I think I even didn't apply any layer here, maybe one layer, because this is like the lightest part. And to keep light, especially white areas white, we need to reserve the whiteness of the paper. Do not go with watercolors over, because with each new layer, you are losing the light of the paper. For example, here, you didn't apply watercolors. It is much lighter, but it should be like here. Somebody's joining. So
thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so this part is ideal for if this would be here.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't paint it right over here, but here you painted over, but it should be, again, I'm telling you, it takes time, it takes practice, and just keep doing. It's not a mistake, it's just a part of the process. So when the more you look, the more you start to notice and start to apply that to your paintings as well. It's just a matter how you are carefully looking at the reference.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I have another Magnolia. Let me check. I don't see it right away. Here. First of all, when you are making a reference photo, try to hold, here is the painting, and here should be a phone. Right above, straight, then I can clearly see, because here we have work and the phone, and then this all dimension is slightly changing, but I still can see what to say. Here we have the same that we have with the previous magnolia. This is quite dark. Again, if we compare to the reference, this is the darkest part. This is not so dark, it's in the middle somewhere, and this is the lightest part. Here we have the same intensity as the upper part, and I see that a student tried to lift out watercolors and maybe did it too hard with the pushing with the brush on the paper. It just a little bit of smudged and damaged the paper surface. If you can't lift watercolors, be patient. Let it dry completely and maybe work on the shadow, because here it's not even applied the shadow. And if you will start applying shadow with the contrast with the lighter part, it will become lighter. Do not too worry about the lighter part. If now I compare these two light areas, they are the same, but you are missing shadow. And when you are missing shadow, it looks like there's no light. Just because you don't have shadow, it's the contrast that makes this volume, this three-dimensional look. You can't have something realistic if you are missing some parts of tonal values. So here, for example, shadow would be really good, and it would make everything seem much different and better. Also, don't be afraid to put shadow right over here. This is good. This lesson was about light, and this is light as it is in the reference. This is completely okay, super great. It's just a problem that you are missing shadows. Okay, I'm not sure if I have another magnolia, but I will leave it. Then I have daffodil, a beautiful spring daffodil. And wow, this is truly beautiful. This is truly beautiful. I like the petals and intensity of the yellow part. It really makes this painting pop. My suggestion, again, if it's what you maybe you are aiming for, be very careful with the edge where shadow is meeting light. If we look at the reference, there are no hard lines around the shadow. When we have a reference taken in the bright daylight, then shadow edge is quite sharp, where shadow finishes and light starts. It's not gradual, but still it don't have such a sharp and dark, and it's also almost seems like you outline, or maybe this is graphite visible through, because yellow pigment is quite tricky, and it truly every graphite mark is visible through. I would be more careful with these crisp lines. Also, you don't need to outline. For example, this part, we can clearly see in the reference that there are no dark outline. There's just shadow part on the petal edge. It's not an outline, it's the whole shadow part. This is the darkest one, but this is like half tones. This is the lightest part, and this is the darkest one. This is somewhere in the middle. Be more careful with the outlines. They can, yeah, but the white part is truly beautiful done. There's so much life. I really, especially this petal, let me check this is truly beautiful. White subjects are quite difficult, and many are struggling with white subject, but they're so tempting to paint, especially with watercolors. So yeah, but here The gray color is really clean and beautifully done. Beautifully. I would be more careful with yellow. Also, let me check. Yeah, these outlines, they're not the best thing. If you wouldn't have these outlines, it would truly look more, this yellow part more voluminous with greater volume, but still beautifully done, beautifully done. Just more careful observations of shadows, where shadow ends and light begins, half tones. Also about the graphite with the yellow, everything seems through those many layers of yellow pigment, which means before starting to paint, you need to erase as much as possible so that maybe only you can see those lines. They're super, super thin, super, super light. Then the yellow part, then the yellow layer will cover those graphite super thin lines. But if you will have thick graphite lines, no matter how layers of yellow you will apply, they will be visible. Okay. Then I have this one, and here it is. It's not moving. Okay, we will make it smaller. So here is the reference, and here is the painting. Okay. Beautiful and intense flower. Let's take a closer look. So when I'm looking, I'm not even judging color tone. It's very good here. I would maybe ask a little bit more contrast here. This tip. Also, I don't see that one. Maybe it's then here. You see how dark it's here. And it creates this also this roundness of this flower. And again, yeah, these things here, they're beautiful. They are curving away from our eyesight, curving away from the light source and going into the shadow. And that's what also is important with tonal values, to see those shadow when something is going away from our eyesight. That's how we can make something look three-dimensional, with shadows, lights, halftones. Also maybe if this is dark, some shadow, not quite this, yeah, a little bit grainy photo. This is beautifully done. Maybe a little bit more light should be nicely curved. Again, you can add shadows here. Don't be afraid to add shadows. Add shadows, those contrasty dark shadows at the end, at the very end, like little final details, but don't add like black or gray. Use the same color that you used here, just extra layer, maybe a little bit more intense. Yes, this part maybe could be a little bit lighter, but again, if you will add shadow in these parts, it will instantly be more realistic. Okay, let's go further. I have this. This is trumpet flower. More yellow here. You see how yellow and orangey yellow is shining here. So I would add it more here. It really is creating this depth and illusion that something is going inside. And a little bit more shadow. Don't be afraid with shadow. You are keeping light very accurately, beautifully. You can add a little bit more shadow. Don't be afraid. Just add it transparently and accurately, especially towards the end part. Here, for example, a little bit more cast shadow here. This tip, a little bit here. And this middle part, it will instantly, now it looks like it is out because there are even these white dots, and they when I'm looking, it looks like it's coming out, but we need to create the illusion that something is going in. So we need to make it darker and yellowish. Somewhere light is shining through those flower walls and creating this. It looks like it's lit from behind with some light. Let's move forward. We have a peony. Here I have a reference. Beautifully painted, maybe more accurate with the stem. A little bit contrast here on the green part, shadow here. Maybe a little bit more shadow here, but accurate. It's almost good. Something here, Cash, this you see, let's take a close. This part, this cast shadow part is beautifully dividing those petals. It starts from here, then it becomes wider. You could apply it here, don't be afraid. Also some cast shadow, you see how it's not an outline of a petal. It's a cast shadow area on the petal that is behind. Nicely, maybe this one is a little bit too dark and it looks like this is the inner part of the petal. But again, I'm just really picky, but beautifully done. And this was a sketch. This was a part of this challenge that I did this June, and we all did. Many of you did. I'm so happy to see that. And yeah, this was quite a quick sketch, but beautifully done. Beautiful lines. They are going in the right direction, which is important with the petal veins. A little bit more precision with stem, some contrast here and there, and beautifully done. Then a peony. Beautiful, really intense, realistic, roundish. Maybe this part could be also in the shadow. This, as you see, it really jumps out of this whole composition because this line, this white line, is in the same intensity as here in the light. A little really transparent wash of shadow mix, and it will instantly make it go deeper. Otherwise, I don't have almost anything to say. Just yeah, beautifully done. Really accurately, beautifully done. Those veins, beautiful light, and it looks realistic. It looks roundish. What was the purpose of this also challenge day? To use those tonal values and to make something look roundish. Here is another volume practice. And I would add shadow right over here. The same intensity that you used here, this part also would be needing a shadow, because now it is in the same tonal value as this part. This is the lightest part. This part should be in the shadow. It is in the shadow and it should have more layers. This may be too dark. When you are painting, don't get stuck on one place and try to finish it, because later you will try to do everything and will compare all the time to this finished stage. There are some artists who are working, as I call them, as printers. They can completely finish one little section, then go on to another. If you're aiming for that, that's completely okay. How I am working, I'm trying to build it gradually as a whole. So I'm comparing one petal with another petal, one area with another area, and I'm gradually building the whole painting. So even if it's half done, I will have tonal values in places in all sections. And that way I can gradually build it more saturated and darker. here shadow, a little bit here. Also, this part is in the shadow, you see here. And yeah, don't rush. Paint gradually with transparent layers. Even if you added something dark, don't try to lift it out. Keep painting, keep practicing. Sorry, Arturin.
I need the charger. I want a strawberry.
Sorry. Okay, we can continue. Then let's have a look at this tulip. This tulip is from last year. Where's the reference? Here is the reference. Beautifully done, really accurate, really worked through. And I need to really look in to see somewhere I can point out where you can become even better. And I have few things to point your attention is be very careful with these leaving light areas. Too light. One thing, we need to keep light, but we can't have those areas completely white if it's not stated in the reference. For example, I don't see here white line. You left this beautiful middle vein white, but transparent layer of pink will instantly calm those white lines. They're not completely white. If I would remove the background, you will notice that there's maybe the whitest part is this little tip. And you don't have this tip as white as these lines. They're beautifully lifted out, but you need to apply a glaze of transparent pink and they will instantly look more calmer. Then be careful with stem. When I'm transferring my outline, I'm always making stems thinner. I know that my hand, while I'm painting, maybe shakes a little bit, maybe goes out of the line. And if I do, I know that my stem is much thinner, then I will adjust all this. If I went out, for example, here, let's show it closer. So I went with a brush here, and I know that my stem is much thinner than in a reference. I will carefully adjust the rest of the stem. So it's not looking, here it's thinner, then it's become thicker, and then again it's thinner. So be careful with stems. They are super important in the composition. For example, this beautiful flower is painted perfectly, beautifully, with beautiful transitions, fine lines. And our eye is working like that we are seeing this little flaw. Yes, we looked at this flower, but then our attention is catched by this little thing, that this stem is slightly off. For example, walks a beautiful lady in beautiful outfit, and if there will be a hole in her tights, we're gonna look at those. Okay, so these white lines need watery wash. Nothing is lost, it's beautifully done. Maybe also this intensity in the shadow part. Maybe it's too intense. Maybe too many watercolor, maybe a little bit saturated it went. Also, maybe this could be a little bit calmer, this light area. It's also competing with the lightness of this. So, for example, let's look at this petal. Here is the darker area, and then it gradually becomes lighter. Then again, some shadow here. You have very intense on I would say even 1, 2, and this one. Look how light is shining at this petal right over here. And you went a little bit too dark too fast right over here. But again, it's beautifully done. I'm just pointing out the areas where you can next time pay maybe attention and be more careful with that. Let's look at the Fritillaria. Where's the reference? Here's the reference. Okay. Here is the same student, and this stem looks like it's forgotten and not painted because missing layer. Also here, is it white paint or you didn't paint it? So this is also not so bright, and you have a very crisp, it looks, for me, from distance, it looks like there is a spot of white paint. Here in the reference, let's look a closer look. It's, first of all, it's much darker, and it gradually, here from this light, gradually becomes darker, and then gradually becomes lighter and in different color tone. But here it looks like there's a white pigment spots because they are too precise and too bright. And this stem looks like forgotten. Maybe. Here, beautifully done stem, perfect. Looking nicely, beautifully. Here it is lighter, darker, darker, beautiful transitions. And also with these flower heads, a little bit too intense watercolor mix, the same as was with the tulip. Again, it's beautifully done, so beautiful precisions with brush strokes, but be careful with watercolor mixes. Try to be lighter. The lighter you will be and more layers you will apply, the more realistic and lifelike it's going to look. Now it looks with those intense layer a little bit heavy. It's beautifully, precision is amazing. Brush strokes are super fine. They follow the movement of petals, but be careful with intense watercolors. And leaving white spots, it's also not the best. There are styles in botanical painting when there's a very, very fine white line left to divide some areas, but then you need to keep that white line everywhere. For example, if you thought of that white line, you are leaving it here, then it means it also should be here and here to divide. There are some artists who are painting like that there, but that line is super fine, like half of the millimeter, maybe even half millimeter, but then it should be everywhere. Here you have it, here you have it, but here you don't have it, here you don't have it. So if it's just left out, then when you finish the painting, go over, you can take an enlarging glass and be careful with the edges. You can, at this point, correct them. Here with intensity, these two flower heads, they are in the same tonal value. Let's look at the reference. And I can see that this one is lighter and this one is darker. Again, let's compare these two flower heads. This is darker, and these two are lighter. Here, they all three are the same tonal value. And also another suggestion, if you want to check your tonal values while you are painting, you almost are finished, you can take a photo on your phone, edit your painting, look at it as black and white, and you will notice that you maybe some areas are too even, like these, they're too even. For example, we can see in the reference, let's zoom out a little bit to compare. This is the lightest, and this is the lightest. Here, all four are like almost in the same line. Some should be lighter and some should be darker. That way you are moving composition. Something is closer and something is further. Again, it is beautifully done. It's just a matter of things to notice next time. Let's look at the leaves. This one is quite dark and it is separating from those that are further from us. Here you have not that separation so visible. You could make it a little bit more darker on the right side. Again, be careful with those white lines. And yeah, beautifully done. Just a little accuracy on some details, but this is a perfect painting. Very bravo. I'm really impressed with your work. Daisy. Oh, I don't have, sorry, I will open the reference. Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. Here I have Daisy. Okay. Let's share again. Share screen. So here we have Daisy. And I would add a little bit more contrast here. Beautifully done petals. It looks white. Beauty of using paper as white, no white pigment, because when we are working on the shadow, then petals automatically appear white. More accuracy on the stem, because I think the stem was the issue that should work a little bit more on stem. Beautifully detailed with little hairs as it is in the reference. Beautiful. Nice work. You did great job. Really great job. Beautiful. Maybe this could be a little bit in the shadow, but again, what I would suggest, maybe a little bit contrast here. That's it. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Now we have tulip petals. And what we have here, this one could be a little bit more deeper inside. It means watery wash of very pale pink with maybe pearl and violet will do the thing and make this area go a little bit deeper inside. Because again, let's compare this whiteness with this whiteness, and they are completely the same. Completely the same. Let's zoom in closer reference. This is the lightest, and this is much darker. You see how similar these two, 1 and 2, they are completely in the same tonal value and in the same line. It's all about little things. When you are so beautifully working with the brush strokes, you are controlling your brush strokes, you're doing perfectly with color tones and details, it's time to go deeper and compare those little things. Those little things will take you to the next level, will change your results instantly. When you will not just look at the major picture, but you will go further with your painting. Look at this part. If I squint my eyes, then this part is the darkest, because this petal is curving and creating cast shadow on this inner part. It's completely blocking the light source. In your painting, this petal with this inner petal is competing. Which one is in front? Because they are looking like they are in the one line. When you are going in one area darker, don't try to do the same in other area. If you are applying shadow here, you don't need to apply shadow here. Also, this part should be a little bit lighter. If we compare this area to this area, this area to this area, this is definitely lighter and this is darker. In your painting, they are completely in the same tonal value. your focus should be going further. You are doing beautifully. Your progress is super great. Push yourself a little bit further. When, for example, you finish the painting, take a photo, take a reference, put them side by side and compare. Zoom like I am zooming right now. Zoom closer. You can't even tell if this is a petal. You're just looking at the section, at the area. You're not even thinking that this is a petal. You are looking at tonal values. And here we can clearly see that this line is almost like the same. But here I can clearly see that this one is going up and this is something happening behind. Okay, so I'm pushing you a little bit further. You are doing beautiful progress, but there's also room for improvement always. I'm also constantly improving or changing. It's a never-ending process. Anemone petal. Okay, let's go through this anemone petal. Beautifully done. Maybe a little bit more lines, those petal lines. These petal veins are creating texture, and also its darkness. You didn't painted those petal veins, and it looks like something is missing. The tonal values are looking correct, but something is missing with this drop. And then if we look at the reference, there are more these veins, petal veins, and they are creating this darkness, more intensity, and many things are going on in this drop. So maybe some extra petal veins will do the thing a little bit. But other way, it's very beautiful. Maybe here a little bit more shadow. Look, this part is slightly curved and going away from light source. Yeah, beautifully done. Nothing else. Then we have this water thing. And what I can say, if I'm looking without reference, it's beautifully done. There's so many these color tones, different textures, and it looks amazing. If I would have a reference, maybe I could point out some perspectives. I think maybe some perspectives are missing. For example, I don't know how it is called. It is the thing that attached to the wall. It should be maybe a little bit more rounder. Again, I don't know how it is stated in the reference. And maybe shadow was somewhere down or up. And this water could be a little bit more straighter. But this is a beautiful painting. A rusty effect is achieved perfect. We see that this thing is covered with this metal rust, and beautiful. Everything is nicely done. Maybe some issues with perspectives, like rounder and in the same size. But again, if it's more painting with not aiming to so much in a realistic and perfect result, this is beautifully done. So interesting, because this is quite a difficult texture and color to be achieved with watercolors. You did really good. What else? Oh, that's it. So if you have questions, you can turn on your mics and you can ask questions. Hi, Wendy. I don't hear you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not at home, so I'm just in a lodge.
Great.
But just wanted to say hi.
Nice to see you. Happy holidays, happy summer and family time. I
Yeah.
stated from the beginning, no worries if you can't attend. And if you have paintings, send in. I will do. If I will be just alone, I will still do the feedback sessions and make feedbacks for your paintings. Summer is
Yeah.
always a little bit tricky for learning, but you are all doing great. A lot of work.
Yeah, I'll have more time to paint in July. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Wendy. Yes, bye. So if anyone have questions here in live session, you can ask. I can answer while we are here.
I'm new. I've just joined a few days ago, so I'm just looking, what
Oh,
you're doing.
great.
Yeah, I really
So,
enjoy doing
yeah,
it.
that is wonderful. As I in the beginning showed that post, go through that post, take a look. Even if you are experienced painter, you will just get to know me better, my technique, my painting approach. So I really suggest go through that first post. That post will always be on top, and you can always get back to it. So start slowly,
good.
no rush, just as you like.
It's good. That's good. I'm beginning to enjoy it. Yeah, I did a little bit of, brush strokes. Practicing. Yes.
Practice watercolor mixes, practice brush strokes. Start simple, and that way you will gradually, slowly increase and get better. So take it slowly.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the section. Yes.
Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
I'm
ladies.
going to do some practice now.
Yes, you can each month, at the end of each month, we have these sessions. So are you a student? Or
yes, Patreon. No.
yeah,
Patreon.
Patreon. But did you choose the student level or a $5 level?
Yeah, $5.
Then each month, at the end of each month, we have this feedback session. So you have now a whole month to practice. And even if you have just one work, maybe even unfinished, and you are struggling with something, send in and we will manage.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, I will certainly do that. Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Christine. Bye.
Thank you, bye.